Houston, we have a rhino problem. This year, Republican led legislatures across the country are passing and promoting policies that are anything but conservative. We're going to talk about some of those states today and what you can do about it. Hey, everybody, I'm Julie Barrett, and I'm the founder of Conservative Ladies of America. And today we're talking about the rhino problem in America. Now, first, I want to address the issue that a lot of Republicans do not like it when they are called rhino. Rhino means Republican in name only. It is an acronym, it does not mean rhinoceros. A Republican in name only is a Republican who is passing, promoting, voting for policies that do not align with the Republican platform or conservative values. Calling someone a rhino is not a personal attack, and something that I talk about a lot is it's not personal, it's politics. It is perfectly acceptable to disagree with an elected official's stance on a policy. And that doesn't mean that you think they are a bad person or that you are attacking them personally. It means that you have a disagreement on the policy. And I think that is okay. And I think that should actually be welcomed instead of discouraged. A lot of times, however, you'll hear people within the Republican Party, the GOP, the Republican elected officials, you'll hear them say that having a disagreement on policy is divisive and we need unity. And without unity, we just aren't going to be able to be successful. And it's your fault, little conservative, that we have this division on our side. I don't like that. I don't agree with that. And when I hear that from people, it makes me want to disagree more because I am not going to get in line simply because someone tells me that we need to have unity and that because of my disagreement on a policy, it is creating problems within the party. How about if the people who are elected by the party under the name of Republican stand for the Republican platform and conservative policies and stop helping Democrats pass bad policies that harm the citizens of their state or of the country, because this is happening at a federal level as well. So today I want to show you some of the things that are going on in some of the very red states across the country at a time when red states should be having a competition to see who can be the most conservative. It seems like we have the exact opposite, and we have these very red states that are trying to see who can have the biggest uniparty. Now, Florida, where I live, and we have the most conservative governor in the country, and we have a Republican majority in our legislature. This is the perfect time for them to pass Governor DeSantis's policies on medical freedom, on property tax cuts, and an abundance of other things. Instead, they're completely ignoring the medical freedom policies. They are not pushing forward on the Pro 2A legislation that many people would like them to do. We don't even have open carry here in Florida, which they even have that in Washington. Daniel Horowitz on X, who is an amazing follow, and he has a conservative podcast that you should definitely listen to. Highly recommend. And on X, he is at RM Conservative. He took a poll about which legislature should get the Rhino of the Year award for subverting the conservative mandate they otherwise had, Texas or Florida. And as you can see, Florida took the win handily with 61.6%. It might be because Daniel lives here in Florida and maybe most of his audience is Floridians, and a lot of conservative Floridians are very unhappy right now with what's going on in our legislature. But Texas is not having a good year. There was a bill in the Texas legislature that would have put a ban on taxpayer-funded lobbying, but it was weakened because 7 Republicans joined the Democrats in amending the legislation to allow taxpayer-funded lobbying organizations to continue hiring full-time lobbyists. So congratulations, Texas. You get to continue funding lobbyists. The Texas legislature is also working on a big school choice agenda that would add a lot of funding to the Texas government. Now, a lot of people think school choice sounds so good, but it is not a conservative policy. adding more funding to government control of education is not true school choice. I like to call school choice the right arm of the education industrial complex. Now, the difference in Texas and Florida, and maybe why Florida won the poll that Daniel Horowitz did, is that Florida has a very conservative governor. Texas, on the other hand, does not. Their governor is kind of a squishy rhino. Let's take a look at what's going on in Idaho. Just the other day, Governor Brad Little vetoed the Medical Freedom Act that was passed by the Idaho legislature. So, why did Governor Little veto this policy? Well, I can only imagine that it had something to do with Big Pharma, who is very powerful. This bill will now go back to the legislature where hopefully they can get enough vote to override the veto of Governor Little. Now, right next door in Montana, also Republican majority, the Montana Freedom Caucus said, "We are disappointed that our pro life governor signed the Medicaid expansion bill today, continuing to fund abortions and gender surgeries using our tax dollars." Why? Why is this going on? I mean, it's a rhetorical question. We know why it's going on, but I'm just trying to point out to you guys that Republicans, even in red states, are mostly accountable to lobbyists and big pharma and big tech and big ed and all of these different organizations and corporations that control the politics in this country. Now, let's talk about Trump. This week, Donald Trump came out endorsing Senator Lindsey Graham for re-election. He also endorsed Rhino Cindy Hyde-Smith for re-election. Republicans have a slim majority in Washington, D.C. This is a perfect time for Trump to use his power and influence to replace some of these rhinos that we've got with actual conservative senators and representatives. And yet we see him continuing to make bad endorsements of rhino candidates who do not put forward conservative policies and who do not vote like conservatives. We want the swamp drained. The swamp didn't get drained in the first term. Let's start draining it now in the second term. But instead, we've got him endorsing these swamp creatures. I know that many people, like myself, have become blue state refugees and have fled to red states. One of the things that I always tell people is you can't leave a blue state. You can't just flee and go kick your heels up in a red state and think everything will be fine. The agendas that we see in these blue states, they're not fine to be confined to the blue states. And it's a huge uniparty issue. It's not just the Democrats, which is what I saw in Washington when I was engaged in that first session in 2022. I realized through that session that the Republicans were working just as hard as Democrats to push through policies that did not serve the citizens. And so, in moving to a red state, it has been my mission and my priority to really get engaged and network with other conservative citizens and even conservative candidates and elected officials so that we can hold the line and ensure that our states continue to pass Florida first policies, Idaho first policies, wherever it is you are, America first policies in DC. We as citizens have a duty to step up and speak up and start taking action and engage in our civic duty in government, whether that's at a city, county, state level, school board, whatever you feel called to do. But we all have to do something. The only way that we as citizens can drown out the funding from the donor class and the lobbyists and these special interest groups is by having massive numbers. And so it's imperative that every single citizen step up and do their part. And if you are in a blue state and you are still fighting, you're fighting behind enemy lines, you still have to speak up, even if they're not listening. And here in Florida, we had a legislator on X yesterday, Michelle Salzman, who I believe she's from like the panhandle of Florida. She was really belittling the citizens who didn't like the fact that they were passing this sales tax thing instead of the property tax cuts that Floridians want. She even turned off replies and was basically treating the people of Florida like peasants, which is something that I see elected officials do all the time. They think they know better. They think they're smarter. And if you don't go along with what they want or what they think or support their policy perspectives, they will talk down to you and they will belittle you. I mean, I can't tell you how many times Republicans have told me, I just don't know how to read a bill, or I don't understand the policy, or I don't understand how things work. Yeah, I do. And I disagree with you. It is important for citizens to know that there are a lot of backroom deals, and there's puppet masters and there's puppets, and there's a lot of deals that get made that are bad for citizens but good for politicians. It is a game. I call it playing politics because it truly is like a game. And a lot of these people get elected and they play politics to stay elected. They're not actually doing the best thing for the people that they are elected to serve. So that's why we as citizens have to engage and we have to hold these people accountable. And I fully believe in respectful debates. I think that that is our right as citizens. I don't think we have to go along to get along. I don't think we have to agree with an elected official simply because they try to tell us that we don't understand. That's what makes America so great, is that we can all have a different opinion and we can bring our different ideas and thoughts to the table and we can respectfully disagree with people. I think that's okay. And here at Conservative Ladies, we don't expect you to agree with our take all the time. If you do, that's great. And if you don't, we'd like to hear about that too. I think it's healthy for us to have debates about these things. Having the debates is how we work through these things and how we really come out with the best policies for the citizens at the end of the day. So I'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on what's going on with the Republicans? What are you doing where you are to engage in your civic duty? Would love to hear your comments on that. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.